All right, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Bava Basra, Daf Ayin Aleph. I just want to prime you for the next couple of days. Tomorrow is Thursday, and Ayin Beis is a pretty significant daf. So to do a blot and a half, we're going to have to push hard. And if you look at Ayin Gimel Amud Beis, you'll see that we have quite a big piece of Gemara. But there are some other short ones to compensate. We'll do as well as we can. I looked ahead. We'll do as well as we can to stay aligned with the daf as we always do. It's funny because like in brachos, there's like a whole parak like this. I'm intimidated by the number of words. So let's go. Let's get started with a new Mishnah on the top of Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph. What we're missing from the context of this Mishnah is when it says Loas Habor Veloas Hagas, what was the context that it's excluded from? The whole parak is speaking about when I make a sale, what is excluded by default? And we don't have that in our Mishnah, so it's carrying over from the previous Mishnah. Take a look at the Rashbam. The first Rashbam on the Mishnah, a third of the way down into the Rashbams, Dibra Mascha Loas Habor Shebesade, namely, I'm selling a sadeh. So that's the part that's missing from our Mishnah, because it assumes that we learned this Mishnah in concert with the previous Mishnah. So if you are selling a field, what's not included? Loas Habor, the pits in the field are not included. Loas Hagas, a wine press. Loas Hashovach, the chicken coop. Ben Charev, Ben Yeshuvin, whether or not they're sitting desolate or whether or not they're being actively used. Now, once I do sell that field and I still own that bor, my sale to you for the field was 1,000% final, including the land that would help me to get to the pit that I still own in your field. And that's Divrei Rabbi Akiva. V'chachamim omrem, no, that's not true. If I sell you my field and I still own the pit, by definition, there's a pathway that is still mine. That's a shita of the chachamim. Now, we learned about this machlokes a couple of days ago. And this is the machlokes about mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher versus mocher ba'ayin ra mocher. The principle of mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher is the shita of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that if I sell you a field, it's a 100% sale. I still own the bor that's in the middle of your field. In Achanami, I do. But I am mocher ba'ayin yafa. I'm selling you the whole field. Now, what that means is I have to go back now and buy a strip of land to get to my own pit. That's what mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher means. And mocher ba'ayin ra mocher means I'm selling you my field. But because I have a pit there, the path is built into the sale. If there is extra language that is thrown into the deal when I'm selling you my field, namely, if I say I'm selling you my field, even if I'm Rabbi Akiva who holds mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher, but I say chutz me'elu, I use some exclusionary language, then I will have a path to get to my bor. So the Gemara says, what about machran le'acher? What if I sell my pit to somebody else? So Rabbi Akiva Omer, if I sell my pit to somebody else, eino tzarech likach lo derech. I'm a nice guy. When I sell, I always sell in favor of the other person. And therefore, because I'm selling him a pit, by definition, it comes with a path on my land. Because I always have in mind to be a mensch in my sale. I'm not a stingy guy. No, I always sell the mocher, a mocher ba'ayin ra. And therefore, he'll then need to buy a new path, always to the detriment of the buyer. Now, this principle of our Mishnah that we've learned so far, that we have this machlokes of Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim about mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher and mocher ba'ayin ra mocher, that's only b'mocher, when there's a sale. Aval b'nosein matana nosein es kula. But when it comes to giving a gift, for that it's 100% giving over. That's pure, and there is no machlokes about that. Even the Chachamim would agree that it's nosein ba'ayin tova mocher, ba'ayin tova mocher. Okay. Next case of the Mishnah is about a quarter of the way down on the page. Ha'achen shechilku, brothers who are splitting up fields or properties that they received b'Yerusha, zachu b'sadeh, zachu b'kula. When one brother makes a zchus on field A, he makes a kinyan on field A, he acquires everything in it. I don't have to go through and pick up the hose and make a kinyan and pick up the nothing. If I'm making a kinyan for field A, I get everything in field A, and the brother gets everything in field B. Hamachzik b'nichse hager. We know, of course, that a ger has no blood relatives, right? The parents are not the parents, the brothers and sisters are not the brothers and sisters. He's a ger. So the nichse ger, if the ger dies, are hefker. Mamish kawako, it's not theft at all. It's mutter lagamra. You're just allowed to go over and take it. Now he could build in so he can come up with things when he's alive. He's still a yid when he's alive, but once he's a guy, if there's no allocations that were predetermined, that's hefker belt. You can just take whatever you want, no problem at all. So if I'm machzik b'nechsei hager, I make one kinyan, I change a fence, whatever I do, add a lock. So then hichzik b'sad hichzik b'kula, no problem at all. I acquire everything and I do so quickly. Hamaktish es hasadeh. If I'm going to be maktish a field, hiktish es kula. Now you can kind of see the flow of the Mishnah. We spoke about mechira, where we have our machlokes of mocher ba'ayin ra mocher, mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher. Then we said matana is different. Now we're trying to figure out. Then we spoke about Yerusha and Nichse Ager, different versions of transfer of property. And now, what about when I'm makdish something? Is that similar to the world of mechira, or is that similar to the world of matana? This is a machlokes tanaim. So we're in the Mishnah, a third of the way down on Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph. Makdish es hasadeh, hikdish es kula. Tanakam is of the opinion that if I'm makdish a field, I'm makdish everything in the field. Just look back at the beginning of the Mishnah of what we are talking about. By a mechira, all those are excluded. By hektish, all those are included. So if there's a pit, a bore in the middle of the field, that's part of the sale. Reb Shimon Omer, a very unique shita and requires some work. Reb Shimon Omer, hamakdish es hasadeh. If I makdish a field, lo hikdish ela es hacharav hamurkav, the carob tree that's strong enough to be grafted, v'asidan hashikma, and a sycamore tree that has been used already to have beams to be used for wood. So if you take a look at the Rashbam, the Rashbam says the second to last Rashbam in the Mishnah section. It's about 12 lines down in the wide lines, 2 lines before the Gemara. Reb Shimon Omer hamakdish es hasadeh lo hikdish klum. It's a little bit of a different language that we have in our Mishnah, but nevertheless, it's a similar idea. And it says on the next line, Ella es hacharav hamurkav. The afal gav, says the Rashbam, the gabe mechiras hasadeh einan mechurin. Even though when I sell a field, these things are excluded automatically because they're chashuv. The Rashbam says, "Damakdish gabe mocher lo delo mocher. Damakdish daito kidas mocher shelo hiktish elamasha pirish." So the mindset of the hektish should be somewhat similar. And here you're trying to be makdish something, you're makdish the chashuv thing, which is only these kinds of trees. Very, very unique shita. We're going to learn about this more today. The Gemara, as it opens a third of the way down, almost halfway down on Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph, wants to understand the Mishnah's distinction between a mechira, where we have the machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, and giving a matana. So says the Gemara, Ma'ishna mecher u'ma'ishna matana. Why is it that by mecher we have the shita of Rabbi Akiva of mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher, we have the Chachamim mocher ba'ayin ra mocher, but by matana we say it's always going to be perfect, it's always a full sale. So Piresh Yehuda ben Nukusa. Yehuda ben Nukusa lived at the time of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, as we'll see in a moment, and he thought that he had a good idea. If you're getting shut down by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, it's probably not embarrassing because he's amazing and like everybody else is like lower than him, but it's still got to be uncomfortable, you know. So he said a suggestion. Piresh Yehuda ben Nukusa lifnei Rebbe, ze Piresh, v'ze lo Piresh. One of these people was very specific, and one of these people was not very specific. Says the Gemara, you're saying that the way the person did the mechira in our Mishnah was different than the way the matana was given? That's not even a level playing field. That can't be. Hi, ze piresh v'zelo piresh. You're saying Yehuda ben Nukusa, that the guy who did the mechira and the guy who gave the matana in our Mishnah gave in it with a different mindset? No way. It's not that one was articulate and one was not articulate. So it has to be different. No, it's zelo piresh v'zelo piresh. Who? Neither of them said boo. Ella, it must be that ze hayalo lefaresh, ze lo hayalo lefaresh. When it comes to a matana, he should have said something. If he wanted to make the matana anything other than a full gift, he should have said something. Because he didn't, it's a full gift. The ze lo hayalo lefaresh. But when it comes to mechira, halacha has it baked into the Mishnais already what's excluded, and you don't need to say anything. So when it comes to a matana, the assumption is a 100% gift unless otherwise noted. When it comes to mechira, we never assume it's a 100% gift. We never assume that. That's what this whole parak has been for the last 10 blot. We started the Mishnah, this parak 10 blot ago. It's all the same thing over and over again. So that's where there's a difference. The Gemara tells a story. Ahuda Amar Lahu. A person said to his avodim, Havu le leplanya besa the machzik mea gulfi. Please go give as a gift to someone my house that's worth that holds 100 barrels. This is like 10 barrels by 10 barrels. It's a reference of square footage, whatever the common lashonos were of that day. So they found a house that was close to that size. It wasn't exactly 10 by 10. Ishtakach, last of the short lines on Ayin Aleph Amid Aleph, to have a machzik mea ve'esrin. The barrel square footage wasn't 10 by 10. It was 10 by 12. Amar Mar Zutra, mea amarle, mea ve'esrin lo amarle. This can't be the house. Because I, the person who wanted to give you a matana of a house, I said 10 by 10. It has to be 100 barrels, 10 by 10. This is 120. So obviously, this is not what I intended. So says the Gemara that maybe not. Rav Ashi Omar, Milot Nan Bamedvar Mamurim B'mocher. When are we super makbid and super specific about measurements, about everything else? That's b'mechira, like our Mishnah said. Aval b'matana. But when it comes to a gift, aval b'nosein matana, nosein es kulan. We assume he's giving everything. So I was flippant about it. Please give him the house that's close to 100 barrels, X, Y axis, 10 by 10. Please go take care of that. Alma. What do we see, says Rav Ashi, from this Mishnah of Bamed Dvar Mamurim B'mocher Aval B'nosein Matana Nosein Es Kulan? It must be that Man Diyav Matana B'ayin Yafa Yav Hachanami. Here in our case too, with the house of 100 versus 120 barrels, it must be Hachanami Man Diyav Matana B'ayin Yafa Yav. Pretty clean, pretty simple, and that is a distinction that that actually makes its way into Shulchan Aruch. As you can see on the side in Os Katan Yud in the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah, this is quoted in Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat Zimun Reish and Gimel Sif Yud Dalet. When a person gives a gift, we assume that it's all inclusive unless otherwise noted. When a person does a mechira, we assume that whatever exclusions are baked into halacha are accurate unless otherwise noted. That's why they're diametrically opposed in their mindset. A mechira is by definition a limited sale. And a gift is by definition a complete sale. And in each case, if you want to flip that by definition, flip the default, you got to say something. You have to open your mouth. We had said in our Mishnah that according to the Tanakama, Hamaktish es hasodeh hiktish. And then if you look back in the Mishnah just to finish the sentence, what we had said is that Hamaktish es hasodeh hiktish es kula. If I maktish my field, then the whole entire thing is sold. And Reb Shimon had a dissenting opinion. We'll come back to this machlokas in our Mishnah momentarily, but first, let's learn a unique din, a complex din of Rav Huna. 4 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Huna, Afal gav de amur Rabbanon, even though the rabbis have taught us that hakonesh shnei ilanos besoch shel chavero, that if I go and buy 2 trees in your yard, hareze lo kana karka, I don't own the dirt. The only thing I own is the tree itself. And therefore, if the tree dies, I can't replant in that spot. I don't own the spot. I own that particular tree. So that's true when I go into your yard and I buy something. However, machar karka, if I'm selling my land to someone, v'shiur shnei ilanos lefanov, and I save 2 trees, so it's different. I'm not buying it from you. I'm selling you my field, but I'm keeping my trees. There, yesh lo karka. There, I do own the karka itself. And look at this blend. It's a weave of what we've been learning. Last 2 lines of the page on Ayin Aleph Amid Aleph. Ve'afilu le Rabbi Akiva, the Amar mocher ba'ayin yafeh mocher. Even according to Rabbi Akiva, who says that when we sell things, it's typically with a graciousness. And I sold you my field, it should be every morsel of dirt. But even here, we would not say that. When would we say mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher? Hanimili gabe bor vidos to lo kamakach sheba'ara. That's in a case where you're talking about a bor and a dos, where those things don't ruin the ground. Aval ilanos to kamakach she'ara, but the land that does get depleted by the trees because the root system kind of makes. I have on my grass, I have roots popping out sticking out. The earth doesn't sit nicely. It's soaking up a lot of the moisture from everywhere around. So there, when it comes to ilanos, turning to the top of Ayin Aleph Amud Beis, Imisa the lo shiur, if there would have been a case scenario that I, who sold my field, would not hold on to the dirt under the trees that I kept, then you to whom I sold the karka could say to me, Akor ilancha, shkol v'zil. What would be the point of me even holding on to the trees? If I don't own the karka, then you, the buyer, can just say, Phil, get your trees out of here. You own the tree. Go replant it somewhere else. But you're not allowed to own the dirt underneath. So it must therefore be that because we don't have this concern, it must therefore be that when I sell, says Rav Huna, when I sell the karka, I'm not selling the karka under the trees that I've maintained. But there's a problem with this. Then 2 lines down, the Gemara says, Tanan, we have a Mishnah. Reb Shimon Omer, Hamaktish es hasadeh, lo hiktish el acharav amurka v'sidan hashikma. This was the shita that we saw in our Mishnah, the shita of Reb Shimon, that a person who's maktish their field, they're not maktish the regular parts of the field, only these chashuv trees, the carob tree that's graftable, and the shikma tree that's used for its wood. The Tani Allah, and we have a corollary in the Tanaim about Reb Shimon. Amar Reb Shimon, Matam, what's the reason why? Says Reb Shimon, what's the reason why when a person is maktish their sadeh, they're only really maktish the charuv and the shikma? Ho veyonkin misdei hektish. The reason why these trees are considered to be sold is because they're yonek misdei hektish. They're drinking from, they're getting their life support, basically, their roots, the root system is drinking from the field around them. The isalka daitach shiur shiur, if in fact what you're saying is, Rav Huna, that when I sell my field, I get to keep the karka, then ki kayanke mi denafshe kayanke. This is a beautiful, subtle question. It can't be that Rav Huna is right, because if I held on to the dirt around me and I was makdish that field, then the charuv and the shikma would not be hektish. Why? Because the karka around it is, according to Rav Huna, my karka, not hektish karka. Elamai, it must be that the karka that's around the tree is not mine. And that's how we know that it is yonik from stay hektish, because if the karka came with the tree and it's my charuv, yeah, so then then I'm not being makdish from hektish at all. It's my own karka. So Reb Shimon, our din of Reb Shimon in the Mishnah seems to be a stira to the sheet of Rav Huna. Rav Huna wanted to say that if I'm mocher karka, but I maintain the trees, that I get the karka around my trees. Reb Shimon points out that's impossible. And we learn that from the Seif of our Mishnah. The Gemara explains subtly, and with this we're going to close right at the end of the page, that really we misunderstood something about Rav Huna. Reb Shimon de Amar ke Rabbi Akiva. Really, the Gemara says that Reb Shimon, who says that Hamakdish es hasad elohikdish el charav hamurka v'sidan hashikma, is like Rabbi Akiva, who says mocher ba'ayin yofe mocher. Rav Huna de Amar ke Rabbanan, and Rav Huna is of the opinion of the Rabbanan. Namely, the chiddush of Rav Huna is that according to the Rabbanan, we're not mocher ba'ayin yofe. He doesn't hold like Rabbi Akiva. Reb Shimon, Rabbi Akiva are party line. But you can't ask from Rabbi Akiva on Rav Huna, because Rav Huna holds like the Rabbanan. What do the Rabbanan hold? Mocher ba'ayin ra mocher. And because they're mocher ba'ayin ra, so therefore, because they're mocher ba'ayin ra, when I sell you my field, I do keep karka around my tree because I'm not a generous salesman. I'm a stingy salesman. I'm keeping the karka around my... So therefore, it's not a stira because... Mocher ba'ayin... Rabbi Akiva and Reb Shimon hold mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher. They give everything, and if you want, if I want to hold, and Rav Huna holds that mocher ba'ayin ra mocher, and therefore when I sell you my karka, I'm a jerk, and I maintain the 8-foot radius, whatever the amount is, because I don't know what the Dalet Amos radius around my tree. I keep that because I'm a jerk, basically. So therefore, the kasha was a brilliant question. But the answer is quite simple, which is you didn't have your parties correct, right? Rabbi Akiva and Reb Shimon was the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon were the same. Mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher. That's why he held the way that he held. That it's mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher, and therefore, when the roots come out, they're from the hektish field. Therefore, the tree is going straight to hektish. Ma'ashe'enkein, according to Rav Huna, who's the party line with the Rabbanan, mocher ba'ayin ra mocher, he holds that if I sell you my field, I'm a jerk. I'm not selling you the dirt around my tree. It's not good for me, and I won't do it. Says the Gemara Pshita. That's a very good answer, but it's a little bit too obvious, a little bit of an easy answer. Says the Gemara, no. Nafkamina, the inafle hadar shasilahu. The difference would be is if it fell out, the tree fell out, could it be replanted? Let's see what this means. This is the last Rashbam on the page. Dibur Hamas, we're not going to learn the whole, it wraps up to the top of the next page. But the Rashbam says, Nafkamina, hadar Rav Huna. The statement of Rav Huna, what was Rav Huna teaching us? Because after all, if all he's doing is parroting the din of the Rabbanon, I don't need Rav Huna for that. Rav Huna doesn't need to show me a case of mocher ba'ayin ra mocher. We know that already. It says the Gemara, the nafkamin is dinafal hadar shasilu dilav de Rav Huna without the sheet of Rav Huna. Havamina shiri lanos lefanav yesh lo karka kol yemei kiyum ha'ilanos aval his kino ein lo karka. Oh, so that was the chiddush of Rav Huna, is to say that if the tree falls, you get to replant it. Without Rav Huna, with only the Rabbanan, we wouldn't have known that. That is what Rav Huna is teaching us. It's so subtle and nuanced, we wouldn't have caught it without seeing this Gemara and picking it apart. We're going to stop right here. We'll start right at the top of Ayin Beis Amud Aleph from Yirtzeh Hashem tomorrow night. We'll get as much done as we can to prepare for Shabbos. Wishing you all a beautiful night.